through it.
But like, can you clearly hear me? Like,
Yes, I can hear
is
you
the
just
audio
fine.
good? Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead. And
Okay. So, what I was saying is that this goes back to the concepts that Nietzsche brought. I think that those are two very useful concepts to determine all the stuff we've been discussing till now, which is the Apollonian, again, the god Apollo and the god Dionysius or shit. So the Apollonian movement and the Dionysian movement, right? or process or whatever you want to call it. Uh, but basically, the what that which is Dionysian is that which is messy, or that which where identity cannot be established, where um we cannot separate things and beings ontologically speaking, right? So the difference between me and you is none, right? In a Dionysian state, we don't have any barriers. We don't have any individuality. Everything is a sort of one being that is very contradictory and self-destructive to himself, right?
hmm
Like imagine a god that keeps punching himself in the face. I don't know. um, And the Apollonian is exactly the opposite. It's the separation, the identification of objects, of beings, of ontological existence, right? It atomizes people, right? It creates individuality, it creates identity, and therefore creates knowledge, right? The art of possibility of knowledge, anyway. and so yeah, so you have these two very different movements, right? And so but what Nietzsche misses in the book is uh that quote unquote true being he tries to express, because at the time he was kind of a Buddhist. The true being he kind of tries to express is actually nothingness. This It doesn't exist in a sort of sense, because when you think of something messy, like when you think of something that uh cannot be identified, cannot be understood, right? Even when we think of something like this, we can visualize it. Like we can visualize the messiness, quote unquote, uh, and we can think about it, and we can talk about it. We can anyway. We have it within our language, but for something to be truly unidentifiable, truly nothing, it has to be nothingness itself, right? So uh, reality ends when there's nothing to be identified. Therefore, that which is the Dionysian state, that which is Dionysius, is pretty much nothingness, as opposed to Apollo, which creates it creates aestheticism, right? It gives aesthetics stuff. We can visualize stuff because it's aesthetical. We can,
do you mean
uh,
aesthetics or aesthetics?
yeah,
Two different words. You have
aesthetics, like the
ethics or two different words. I mean,
no, I mean, like I meant something like this.
that word. Yeah. I created a different chat, dialectical materialism, to sort of clean this
Okay.
stuff up.
Oh no, not aesthetic. No, not aesthetic.
Yeah.
But anyway, aesthetics with
Yeah,
anyway.
there's a bit of a
Uh,
sound to it.
yeah, sometimes I do it correctly, sometimes I do it wrong. You have to be patient with me. Uh, anyway, so it's aesthetical existence itself, because it's like looking to a paint, right? We can only identify stuff because it has difference in colors, different uh uh how do I say this, difference in profoundness? How the fuck do I say? Like some stuff is more in the back, like some stuff is in the background, and some stuff is in the foreground, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we can identify these stuff. Therefore, we're aestheticizing reality, right? We're
Yes.
making it identifiable, making it thinkable. That's the Apollonian state. That's the state we currently live in. Nietzsche characterizes this as a dream. Right? We live in a dream state. uh, so anyway, so going back to that notion, that there's an quote unquote objective reality and a fake reality. This notion is pretty much bonkers because everything we do, everything we uh strive for is also a fake reality because it's within our thinkable minds, it's within our language, right? So
Yes.
everything that is within our language is quote unquote fake, not true, it's not essence, right? So when we strive for a better world, when we strive for a better society, it's actually like doing art. We actually striving for a different way of placing colors, placing uh, the characters, placing the shapes and shit. Right?
Yeah, we're pursuing
Uh,
the idealized form of how we think social existence should be.
is exactly. So everything that we struggle for is just a different fantasy.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I
Yeah.
just needed you know to clarify this notion, right?
Yes.
So
I can agree absolutely in most parts. I haven't read much Nietzsche other than the one book I bought that I only read like a few pages into. Um, and nor do I
which
know too
one?
much in.
Mad
It's the fuck morality.
genealogy of morals.
Yes, genealogy of morality. Yes.
Okay,
Um,
that one's pretty
because I got it as a primer for dialectic of enlightenment, but I just read dialectic of enlightenment without it, and then I got real into Adorno.
good.
Um,
Exactly. I
so
actually just got
I
into Nietzsche because
well, okay, I've had a similar discussion, but less philosophical, more psychoanalytical, with my friend Venom, and a similar topic of like the separation between conscious reality and physical reality, because clearly, and this is something that everyone accepts, there is a form of objective reality. There clearly is a form of reality, science, and physicality beyond human notions and beyond human control. And this is kind of like an unmoving rock of the sorts that realities and ideals are based on. And when we accept that that exists, we also have to accept that everything that comes out of our minds is a warping of it. That we can never be truly objective and we are permanently subjective. Adorno, actually, in Minimum Moralia, he went over this brilliant critique of a lot of the people who claim to be objective, because a lot of the notions of objective thought and objective realism of the sorts are incredibly subjective, as they don't allow criticism at all and stuff like that. But what me and Venom were going on about mostly was the notion of what is existence in the first place. What is conscious existence when we are around us? How much is capable of being warped? If we accept that we are perceiving reality and
just a clarification. Do you mean like warp, like a distortion? Like do our minds distort reality? Is that what you're saying?
I would say, well, distort is a very charged word. It implies that there could be a sort of chaos to it, but I'm proposing a more orderly type of distortion of reality, a sort of twisting, a bending of reality to our ideals and our perceptions and what reality should be.
A representation. So you mean
Yes.
okay?
And fuck, I don't even know where I'm going with this.
It's okay. You can continue. Hello?
I cannot seem to find. I don't know where I put half my books. I just have books thrown around everywhere. Where were we going? It was aesthetic reality. Yes. Fuck. My mind's gone blank. Shit.
Okay. You
Ah,
were
yes, yes.
saying
Okay, okay,
how
yeah.
you
All right,
work
all right.
with
I had it
piano.
all. I have it all brought back together. Yes, the neurons have connected. Yes, and yes, this ties in perfectly with what I was saying earlier in regards to the dangers of modern pop music and the form at which they present reality. You know, once you accept that reality is warping, and you accept that reality warps to one's ideals, those who control your ideals and first control how reality is even presented to you. It controls significantly how you live your life and how you think things are functioning. An easy and perhaps overused example would be that there are people who are incredibly religious and their reality is fundamentally based on the concept of God, and there are people who are incredibly irreligious and their reality is fundamentally on the basis of, I wouldn't say science, but
Lack of God, like
this notion of an ever expansive yet empty universe, sort of. This idea, maybe it goes back to the Dawkins memes concept, where we can only really view atheism as the moment as sort of a lack of God rather than the gaining of something else, which is in its own right an entirely different social critique of our society. But
yeah.
it's just an easy, those are two hugely different worldviews, and they affect every realm of thought. And so the dangers of warping reality and who controls styles, who controls aesthetics. And then this goes back even further into dialectical materialism. You control the way objects are perceived, the way entire events are perceived, and you could control wealth, you control the way where people put their votes. The greatest critique of democracy at all is really that it bases itself on the idea that the right opinion for the masses will be made by the masses. But an uneducated proletariat and an uneducated voting base are going to make uneducated decisions.
Yeah,
But I
I
don't I
agree.
don't
But
even think that's the truly dangerous part. I think that's the idea of an uneducated voter base is out of touch with reality. The reality is we have an indoctrinated voter base because all education itself is, and this will have to be accepted, all education is some form of indoctrination, as you cannot have unbiased opinions. I don't
yeah,
even
sure. That.
I don't even think
Hmm.
an artificial intelligence is capable of making an unbiased opinion. And what that leads to is just easy control and manipulation of reality. Yeah, all facets of reality are capable of being controlled.
Yeah, can I say were you? Did you finish it?
Yeah, yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. No, just just be sure. But I just asking how do I pronounce your nickname? Is like Enos or Ionos?
Ionis.
Ionos? Ionos.
Eonis. I actually based it off
Ionos.
of so it's onus as in like the Latin word for like god of, and then Um and it's not how I came up with the name at all. The name was I literally spent 3 hours in my room like 2 maybe 3 years ago. Just like man, I need to think of a name. I need to think of an online name. And then after
Holy
three
shit.
hours of just like blank minding it, it came to me. Ionis.
I don't know why, but I always read like it like that. Like I sent on dialectical
E-
materialism. I always read it like that for some reason.
Enois.
Yeah, like Enos. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. For some
everyone
reason,
messes that up, and I do enjoy that part of the nickname. It's proof of its own uniqueness, which was exactly what I was
yeah.
going for.
Yeah, well, mine is actually based on a joke, but anyway. By the way, my name is not Zagalone or Zago, which is where I based this nickname.
It's not
It's
Zagalone.
just
Oh
something.
my god. You
No, of course. I mean, Yeah, I mean, I actually based it on a real name, which is Zago, like Zago, Zago.
Hmm.
But it's also not my name.
I could
So yeah,
say, hmm, there's like 2.5 letters in Ionis that are probably from my actual name, but it doesn't follow the structure of my real name at all. Ain't about to
oh, I
dox
see.
myself though. Uh, so yeah,
So cool, so cool. But yeah, anyway,
so yes,
what I
fundamental.
was gonna,
Okay, yeah, continue what you
yeah,
what you were going to say.
no, no, you can say.
Oh yeah, well the fundamental danger of the world pop music presents is that it is a world where there is very clearly one dominant there's clearly not only a hierarchy, but a dominant form of music that bases itself in an overwhelmingly vibrant aesthetic, very that is capable of reaching with teenagers, children, and adults. It's not age based at all. It's a merger of music, and it can even infect other forms of music, rock and rap and everything, and assimilate those into itself in a sense where it's almost parasitic. But I wouldn't even refer to that. I'd feel it's more like a chemical reaction of the sorts, a new product that is made and
You
similar
mean
to
like
pop
a-
music.
assimilation? You mean?
Yes, it
Okay, okay.
assimilates into the new form. An important thing that I mentioned but didn't explain in my initial rant was the modern bop. It's really complicated, and I'm simplifying it because I don't know the greatest extent about it. Um, Essentially, in modern pop music, there's a very repeated form of sound where it's like ba bump. I'm very tone deaf with my voice, so I'm not doing it right at all. But if you watch a few videos on it and you listen to music, you'll hear it like every 5 seconds because it is so chemically powerful in making music entertaining. And I compare it to the thought of like how sugar is added to products to make them sell more, or movies given like explosions and more color, and like movies going towards exciting actiony scenes and exciting devious romances over anything sort of complex because it's more initially stimulating, it's easier to sell. There was this one great meme that I found and posting and reposted on my own Instagram. It's like, ah, yes, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. Maybe that's the worst part. I've won
Oh
it
yeah,
all,
I
and
saw
in
it.
the end, I have nothing. Yeah, just
I
summarize
saw
it
it.
in the gist.
Actually, I actually don't think we're winning, but I'll get to the to this meme. Uh,
Well,
but
I
but
mean,
anyway, just
winning is very
okay.
opinionated. I think, or it's referring to like the capitalist form of winning, where it's like, oh,
Yeah,
you
no, no,
you gain
I know,
object,
no,
you gain media, you
no.
gain stimulation. It's quite literally the fucking um. If
No,
you
I get it. It has a good poetic,
I
poetic
I
message.
I would
Like
I
this meme has a good poetic
yes,
message.
yes, but I was comparing it more to the idea 'cause, in Half-Life there's these actually everyone part of the fuck, what are they called?
The organization like that comes at the end of the game. In
Um,
the game.
Half-Life 2. The
It's isn't it Black Mesa or something? Black
not Black
Mesa?
Mesa. It's the interdimensional alien empire that owns like three universes.
I don't
God,
know.
what are they called?
Look, but I know what you're talking.
Yeah, well,
Can
anyways,
go
their
on.
form of human control is like whenever you do something like whether you're one of their think take servitor type machines or you're one of their Metro Cop police forces, they like give you chemical stimulation or they'll like allow you to actually engage in intercourse with your partner. And
Hmm.
it's the similar concept to like the system we live under capitalism. Oh, you work and earn money. Well, now you get to use your money on some form of stimulation. And yet we wonder why drug use is so pervasive in capitalist societies. It's
Yeah, that's actually a modern problem. You know, alcoholism is a very
I mean, alcoholism has existed throughout the ages, but alcohol poisoning, to the extent at which it is now, is a very modern problem. I mean, you could see this in Russia. You know, alcohol was always a big thing in the Soviet Union, but there wasn't a lot of issues with people, dropping dead from alcohol poisoning until the fall of the Soviet Union, and now it's like a legitimate massive cause of death over in Eastern Bloc and countries and throughout the Russian Federation.
yeah, that's true. But anyway, what I was gonna actually, how do I word English? Let me think real quick. Going to what was going to uh I was gonna add to your idea, of ideological control and shit. Because I think I think people, I don't know what your views on postmodernism is. I mean the quote unquote school of thought, not the condition, the postmodern condition. But anyway, uh, but I think people have a very bad notion. They think, oh, they're just a bunch of skeptical motherfuckers who don't show any solution to stuff they present and shit. But anyway, I think it's very unfair because one of the very things one of the things that are very interesting that came from postmodern philosophy is post-structuralism. And what you said totally embodies post-structuralism, post-structuralism, because it's basically saying how reality is formed by language, right? What we perceive as real is language. Everything is
Yes.
language, right? And you have read 1984, right? You know
Yeah,
how
I
language
I've
can be
yes.
controlled to, yeah, you know how language can be used to control the proletariat and people in general. um, to the extent even the controllers are being
Yes.
controlled, right? Um, and I think that's a very central point to liberation, right? We have change language. We have to um, well, we have to break the current structural forms of science, the current structural uh, system of science, right?
Hmm.
Uh, for instance, Foucault, when he analyzes the hospice, it's hospice.
Yes,
Uh,
hospice. You're talking about the group of nurses and doctors who handle people when they're dying. Yes?
no, yeah, well, it actually also applies to, but no, I was actually referring to like people with severe mental health go,
Hmm.
Uh, what is it? Isn't it hospices? I think it is, isn't it?
Well, I know in America, hospice is like when people who are, well, the people who are most likely going to die. That's when hospice is brought in to handle them, especially in like nursing homes and stuff like that.
Oh, like imagine, I don't know, how the fuck do I put, like or like sociopaths go, when they are judged in trial, they don't go to, they go to these facilities that try to re-socialize, quote unquote, right? Although prison technically also has this eyes on that today. But anyway, did you get my point? Did you get
Um,
what I'm trying to portray here? What I'm
n-
trying to
no,
present?
no. You brought up
Um,
hospice and prisons.
yeah, I actually do that a lot. I talk about something, then I start talking about something else, and it
I
just
mean, this is
gets out of
very
hand.
big Foucault work over here. I mean, I could already tell, but I don't get entirely what you're saying. Although there is something I'd like to note in 1984 that I think is very a huge problem with ideology in the United States is a lot of people like to focus on like the limiting of the words and the creation of a lot of the new words in Oceania. But I think the more damaging aspect was their phraseology, their creation of these ideological phrases that reassert their worldviews, that reassert reality. And we have, the same thing here in the West. We have like sayings, which are the
Dude,
exact same
I
thing.
just, oh, whoa, dude, I wasn't hearing you. I just, dropped out.
Oh,
I wasn't hearing.
well, it was
You go,
recorded, so.
you were talking about, like, go back to what you were saying about 94 and the
So,
problem in the
anyways,
U.S.
yes, to repeat what I said, 1984, a lot of people like to focus on, what you brought up, the creation of new words and the limiting of language to a lot of these newer convoluted words in Oceania. But I think one of the more pervasive issues with the book was their phraseology, or like a lot of the phrases they made and a lot of their like the ideological reassertions of their reality. Because we have the same exact thing over here in the West. We have like these sayings and myths that they hold no meaning beyond ideology, and their only goal is to just to placate someone in the worldview. Hospice. I mean, are you referring to asylum?
Yeah,
I think
like,
obviously the one saying everyone on the Gotmec server would understand. Communism only works on paper. Like capitalism literally works on paper. What do you think currency is?
dialectical spectrum.
But other than that,
I don't know.
very bashful retort, the phrase is ideological. It means nothing. It's nothing more than, oh, communism only works and when Marx wrote it down, which ironically admits that communism makes sense. And then they have to add the human nature retort, which I've gone over before, and
It's a
it's
very
just
simple
it's
one.
nothing more than ideological phraseology justified by more of it. There's no real thought. It's just I it's just phrases being thrown around by ideologues, with any critical thinking
Really.
being viewed as subjective and untrue, which is the very same thing Adorno is going over in that passage. I should honestly go over and grab Minima Moralia right now and read it out. But you were saying something.
Yeah, yeah. Like Madhouse, is Madhouse a good word for what I'm trying to portray? Just
So
think of Arkham Asylum, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Batman,
In America,
Arkham
they would be
Asylum.
like mental asylums, but we've basically abolished these. We no longer allow these kind of prison systems to exist. Instead, we have psych wards, which is basically more along the lines of a safer, more secure nursing home for the mentally deranged, with a lot more better medical facilities. So I mean, things have rapidly improved since Foucault's time.
I see. Yeah. So yeah, but Foucault does a history of these places, right? And the history of the quote unquote crazy people, right? He does a history of craziness itself. And what a very interesting methodology he uses is post-structuralism. He throughout the book, he he uses like he characterizes the system that the new economic system, which is capitalism, as a sort of central system of science. So it has like its building sign, which would be the building words, right? So it has like individuality, rights, right? Individual rights and shit. You have enlightenment. Anyway, you have all these words that form the idea of capitalism, right? That forms its identity and its uh, political power, right? And what it does is to exclude those words that are pernicious to the system, right? And so it excludes like old people because old people aren't uh, economically active, right? So they put in then in nursing homes, they put them away. So
Unless you're
anyway, so
wealthy,
they just
unless you're rich.
yeah, unless you're rich. Anyway, but since they're not economically active, they're put away. They're out of society. They can't interact with society anymore, right? So they're like a hinder, something that is weighting us down, right? Waiting. How the fuck do I say that? Well, let me read. Maybe.
Weighing us down.
Yeah, Wayne. Yeah.
Oh shit, hold
Anyway,
on. DCS is finally done updating and it's decided to launch itself. Give me about a moment to turn it off.
can
Fuck it.
I continue?
Hold on. Yes,
Okay.
now you can.
Okay. So every word, every system of sign or individual signs that do not that are a threat or do not help the main system of signs, which is capitalism, which embodies capitalism, is excluded, and this has real implications because the old people are excluded, the crazy people are excluded, and Foucault does a historical analysis to show how this uh, central system of science actually changed over time, right? Uh, because back then, the quote unquote again crazy people were considered wise men, right? They achieved true knowledge, and they're the, the true wise men, right? Like they know the essence of reality, right? Anyway, so they have had a very different system of science that didn't exclude crazy people, that didn't uh, exclude their ways of thought, ways of understanding the world, right? But we do now. We with rationality, right? We praise rationality and shit, and think, oh no, crazy people are irrational.
Yes.
Stuff. Their knowledge is not valuable to us anymore, right? Anyway, so I think language is essential to defining reality, to defining that which we consider real, and to define uh, uh, our identity, right? Because we do a just juxtaposition, we do a differentiation. Differentiation. A big thing about structuralism, and later on post-structuralism, is the differentiation. No word has a meaning by itself. Everything is in relation to another thing, right? So we only have an identity because we are different. We differentiate other people, other words, other uh, systems of thought. Anyway, so yeah, I think what you said about ideological control very central in the idea of the structure of language, the structure of our ways of understanding the world, of identifying things, right? And going back to the music thing, right? The pop music thing. They just said it's always the same, the repeated cycle. We always win. You said the you cited the meme. We always win shit.
Yes.
This is a very interesting concept explored by, I don't know if you have read his books, but it's a it's a guy named Byung-Chul Han. Don't know if you ever heard of him, but in his book Agony of Eros, he says how love is dying, right? How eroticism and love in general is dying. Not because we lack sex, right? Because sex is everywhere nowadays with the internet shit. Not because of that, but because we like the other. We just have the I. We are narcissistic in essence, right?
Yes.
Uh, since everything is, as you said, repetitive, everything keeps. It's like a gravitational force that everything is sucked to us, right? To our forms of identification and uh, how can I express this? It serves our pleasures, right? It makes us feel good in general. Uh, this is the this is a lack of other. This happens because we lack the other with again a capital O. I
Yes.
uh, and because we like the other, we also like love. We also like eroticism,
Yeah.
true
Yeah.
eroticism,
Slavoj Žižek
true
went over
sex.
this in Pandemic 2. He said, I think he might have been quoting the same person, or maybe he was quoting someone else, but that like sex has descended into masturbation through the other person, as in the other
Yeah, yeah,
serves not as the other, but instead as an object to fulfill your fantasies.
Yeah,
because
exactly. You don't see the other as a human being, as a reality in itself, right? You see as a part of your reality. You're like the protagonist. Everyone serves you, and that's the logic of market. If you think about, it. We are consumers, right? We want that which pleasures us. So everyone and everything offers that which will pleasure us. So they're basically in servitude of us. Every uh, of course, this is not true on a material level because companies keep fucking stealing us and shit. But on a ideological ground, on an ideological landscape, uh, companies just sell exactly it sells exactly what we want, sell that which is good, that which will pleasure us, right? That is exactly the criticism that Byung-Chul Han traces, because by doing that everything serves you. You have no contact with real human beings because every human being is actually selling themselves to you. We have I don't know if you ever had like administrative courses, but I had. It sucks, by the way. But they always talk about, your personal marketing, right? You have to show yourself as good working, uh as diligent and shit. You have to show you're a good employee,
yes,
right? And so you're basically becomes you basically you're basically serving another being, and every other being is serving you. Everyone is doing that which will pleasure you. You
hence the
become the
name,
center of the world.
hence the name of the service industry.
Exactly. Yeah. So uh, that's the whole criticism that Byung-Chul Han traces, because capitalism is a perpetual state of I. There's no other. It's only
Mm,
I. It's only me. There's only me in the world.
yes, and I think I had a similar thought of this either a while ago. It was probably one of the things I wrote down in Lost. Was you have to wonder why the majority of video games, movies, animes, and really any plot-based media is set within a like the hero's journey. Like an adventure with conflict. Where even like daily lives are taken into the sphere of there being like this great enemy, and the hero or the protagonist has to overcome them. Why is this constantly being marketed to us? And I think that ties in very well with your idea of just how the market is brought towards us. We're made to be these protagonists in a world that is, clearly full of conflict. Like no one can deny that. But instead of
Yeah.
moving any towards a real solution, it's just dropped. It is conflict is simultaneously enlightened to the undeniable human reality, and reality is debased into the sphere of conflict, which,
Yeah, and empowering us and shit, right?
yes,
Try, trying to empower us. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
no, no, no. And it's even furthermore with the way like sports are presented. There's always, despite the fact that the majority of sports are based around teams, there's always heavy focus and emphasis on the skills and capabilities of one player. To just lazily come up with a big name, I genuinely don't think LeBron James could take on an entire enemy basketball team. In the end, it's the team cohesion that creates victory. But this, other than like the simple ideological, like children's movie where it's like, oh, it's teamwork, it's team. It's the same stuff where it's like in the same movies they tell you, oh, honesty will get you far in life. Despite the fact that it's just untrue, honesty won't get you far in life, and teamwork is just going to get you stepped on by the person who isn't a
And
team player, who's playing life like it's an action adventure video game, grinding for XP, stepping on everyone else around him. Maybe shooter games weren't really the scary thought at all, but just the adventure movies turning our view on capitalism into this weird, disgusting reality for us to just level up and get higher in.
and and You um, aren't you gonna say anything?
I don't really have anything more than that at the
Yeah,
moment.
it's because you said end, like end,
Did I?
and
I didn't mean to.
okay, that's cool. It's cool.
Oh, wait, hold on, wait, no, actually, hold on. I just had another realization. If we do a lyrical analysis of your average pop song, they're all like a lot of them are about like, conflict and suffering because they have to be relatable, you know. I just love the fact that the acceptance of the fact that there is consistent suffering and conflict under capitalism doesn't instead of like pulling out the want to solve this, instead pulls out the want of human relations. So it's like, oh man, you're suffering? Me too. Just like everyone. Welcome to reality. We're all just suffering here. There's no
yeah,
way
that's the
out.
quote unquote, that is the objective reality and shit, right? That's
Yes.
quote unquote.
It
I see.
just
I see.
because and
So,
that's an interesting thing though, because it's true because we are being presented a
I'm
world.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You popped like a can of soda. I don't know
Yes.
what you're drinking, but I just reminded of the boomer meme. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. The Monster Energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pop the soda. Yeah, these damn liberals.
These damn
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
SJWs. They don't know how stuff works. I spent 40
They
years
don't.
working for this house and this lawnmower. You don't
And
know
I'm fucking
struggle.
miserable now, but
We're
that
all
doesn't
suffering.
matter.
Trump will make America great again.
Conrad Trump.
I think
Anyway,
that was the best edit I've ever seen. The one the edit where Trump was like fighting for the proletariat, like it actually
yeah,
like
I saw
because
that.
the best part, it's so
I
well
saw
written. Because the way it starts itself off, it sounds like Trump would actually like before it goes into the proletariat rant. It sounds like, oh yeah, this already sounds like a Trump rant. But then he starts ranting about communism and rising up to the proletariat, and I was like, yes, if only.
that. That's true. Okay, but anyway, you can continue. You can continue what you're saying.
Whatever I was saying before I know I was mentioning something where like, oh yeah, we're
About
being
lyrics, about hip hop.
ideological control. We're being presented this reality where everyone is suffering, and it's made to be this objective, immutable reality. It's made to be, oh, suffering is human nature. Well,
Yeah.
what? What does civilization exist for? Am I
Yeah,
supposed
and
to go up to a person who has cancer and be like, "Oh, you're suffering? Welcome to
that's whack,
reality."
dude.
What?
It's reality, dude. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, and it also these kind of portrayals usually tend to say something like tend to even moralize, right? Suffering. They tend to say, "Oh yeah, suffering is bad, but that will make you go higher in life. With no suffering, there would be no sense to life, right? Whoa, yeah, dude." Anyway,
And it's why they hate homeless people because homeless people are like the greatest antithesis to capitalism. It's like, okay, all right, so here's someone who played the system and he failed. All right, oh, well, you fail at the system. All right, well, but this is horrible. You talk
you
about
didn't
people
try
starving
enough.
under communism. There's your starving man right there, begging on the street to get like his $1 McDonald's. So, are we? Oh no, man, that's just reality. He's there because he's a drug abuser. It's what?
Yeah.
Um,
He didn't, face reality with like a man.
why do you
Shit.
think if he isn't? Most homeless people aren't drug abusers. It's oh man. Oh, but
It's pretty down. It's pretty down.
because most homeless people can barely even afford to be drug abusers. The people who are abusing drugs are the low income class who have some sort of like stable housing of somewhat some way, just living in a toxic, unstable emotional environment. It
And
just
yeah, and when it comes to drug abuse, the drug uh people who use a lot of drugs, right? They're addicted to drugs and shit. Sometimes I don't know if it is true in uh every time every place this happens, but at least in Brazil, there's a place called Cracolândia, which is crackland, where people are addicted to crack, right? Because that's why the name is like that. And but the thing is, they use crack because it it like fakes the how the oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the words. I'm sorry. It like it takes away this sensation of hunger, right? They're homeless people. They're hunger. You know, they want to eat, but they can't afford anything. They can't afford food, so they use drugs to, so they can um again, they can take away the sensation of hunger. So they actually spend their money on this on crack, on drugs. So it's like a repetitive cycle, right? They
Hmm.
don't have the money for food, so they're addicted to crack. They use the crack to make the sensation of hunger go away. So it keeps going in a loop, and they have no social help whatsoever,
Yes.
right? They have
And
no social support whatsoever.
I'm assuming Brazil has the same issue America has, where, instead of like stopping the people that bring in the drugs in, because it's always, government agents, CIA, and, they're like, oh, time to throw the drug abuser in jail for 15 years. You get mandatory minimums. It's just this awful, awful thing where we basically, if you possess like 5 grams of weed in some areas, you can get sentenced automatically to prison for longer than if had you murdered someone. I'm not joking.
Wow.
I know this concept is like, it shocks most people in America because a lot of people don't know about it. A lot of people think, oh, weed, oh, that's just a slap on the wrist. Well, in some areas, it really isn't, especially if you're a minority. But I mean, that's just so telling of like our modern society. Homeless, like starving people are more willing to do drugs because it's cheaper and just get rid of the hunger that way than they are to actually eat. And you can't tell me there's not enough food because, well,
Yeah.
then well, there's multiple things wrong with that one because there's no answer to that question angers capitalists because there's no answer to it that makes them look good because you can either say, well, there isn't enough food, and then, well, clearly capitalism is failing in its production. Or they just say, oh, there is enough food, but they're just not getting to that area. Okay, well, then clearly capitalism is stratifying areas and it's not prioritizing things right, and there are people starving as a result of capitalism. Or they could say, no, there is enough food. It's just like poverty culture, and it's like, what? Poverty culture? What? You're telling me people are just starving because of their culture? It makes no sense. Or
Uh,
they could say that there's just no way, there's no answer to that question that
yeah, and I,
doesn't
and I get so angry. It's well, actually, what I'm gonna say is not very related. It's kind of related, but anyway, I get so angry at these hippies, that they idealize, fantasize poverty. They think, oh yeah, the poor are more free.
Dude,
They
hippies
don't
are
have the
unironically a CIA operation. I must inform you of this. Like straight up.
probably they probably are, dude.
Like
Uh,
I wouldn't say
I
the majority of
I hate these
hippies are
people, man.
genuine hippies, but I mean they're so like, oh man, like, we gotta spread peace and love. Yeah, yeah. I don't see you over in the Middle
Yeah,
East trying to do this, man. You coward. You hide behind the benefits of capitalism, and then just claim to be some sort of socialist or some communist. While you're so entitled. A lot of them are just incredibly entitled people.
yeah, I hate
They
these
own
people, dude.
property, they
Yeah.
own farms. They're like, oh, peace and love, man.
Yeah, and they idealize stuff, right? They idealize the poverty. They
Yeah.
idealize nature. They think everything. Oh, yeah, these are the good things in life.
Yeah,
The
herbal remedies are so
freedom.
good. It's totally not a reflection of a stratified medical system where only the rich are getting good health care. No, man.
Nah, dude.
I'm not an agent of big pharma at all. I mean, really.
uh,
I
uh,
mean,
uh,
like, you gotta
white
wonder,
liberal moment.
like, why do you like I've been pondering this for like years now. Why do you think like crystals are on the rise, like drug use is on the rise, herbal remedies are on the rise? And I think an easy answer would be, well, literal medicine is not only both expensive, but it's also ideologically outside the realm of culture, you know, in a sense that, you have to go to college and go to for like 4, 8, or 12 years. So there's a very small percentage of the country that knows proper medicine and stuff like that. And they're just being treated as these service people again. And here we go with, other, how can these people serve
Yeah.
me with their medicine? And it just turns medicine into the equivalent of like black magic because most people are unaware of like the science and history and research that goes into it. And then you end up with a huge, like in my country, like 45% of people who are against the coronavirus vaccine for some of the dumbest reasons. We're so privileged as a country in America. Not only are people dying of obesity, but now we have increased rates of people dying because they're fasting for too long, because they're getting like hypoglycemia. They're not getting enough sugar in their blood, and then people who are dying because they're rejecting vaccines. Whereas everywhere else around the world, people are dying because they can't get them. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that's freedom. Freedom to be a fucking idiot. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's
Well, in Brazil,
it's
Brazil, there's a like a very large portion of people who are middle class and upper middle class who are also against vaccines, because of our stupid presidentship.
oh,
Because
but I
well,
bet you
they're also
quite a bit
stupid,
of the
but
rich ones are vaccinated. I didn't Bolsonaro get vaccinated?
yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I think it. Yeah, well, I'm just saying, because they're all fucking stupid as hell. They even made protests and shit
Well, that's not
against vaccines.
that's the scary thing. Everyone knows these politicians aren't anti-vax because a lot of them are getting vaccinated. They're not stupid. They're playing into these conspiracy theories to get them more votes and more voter support, and and it serves at this. If we go back to dialectical materialism, this is literally this distraction while this material wealth and all these decisions are being made, as tax cuts and tax increases on the poor and tax cuts on the rich and stuff. It's well, this huge scheme to make the rich richer and make politicians richer is happening while other people are concerned about the vaccines and the fake coronavirus.
Yeah,
But
it's
now
so
we have the Delta variant, which is going to not wake anyone up. No, more people are just going to die, and people are going to come up with like, I just live in a country where more people are willing to believe that like George Soros, the Jews, and some space aliens are like beaming people with radiation and killing them before they'll believe that a virus is going around and killing them.
uh, fuck, dude.
Because
It's the double thought, right? I don't know how it is in English. The 1984 concept,
double
double
speak,
thought,
yeah.
I think. Double speak, yeah. It's dupli pensar in Portuguese. Like this, I'm gonna write it like this.
I know double speak. I don't know what that is, but
Yeah, it's the way we translate it. Actually, it also can also be like that.
wow, look at your other languages in multiple words.
Whoa, dude, that's so alien. But anyway, uh, just going back real quick to the whole I other thing, real quick. I just wanted to say, that we lost the ability to fragilize our to get ourselves in a fragile position because we as we previously discussed, we're always being served, right? We're like the center of the world and shit. So we cannot know what is to lose power, right? This relative power we had, right? Which is the consumerist power. So we don't know what is to lose power. We fear to lose power, and that's exactly what love does. Love takes away our power. We start we're like enchanted by the other person, right? Loved person. We're subjugate by their will.
Uh,
Uh, yeah,
yeah,
you
if you could, I need to take a break for like a minute. I'll be back.
Yeah, cool, cool. I'm gonna make myself something to eat, okay? I'm gonna be back to later.
Ugh. I have returned. Ah, food eater.
ist noch nicht zu Ende, kaum beraubt liegt weit voran. Sieh im Wind die Fahnen vor uns wehen, sie führt die Marschkolonne an. Soldaten, Marsch, Marsch, Marsch. Mein Schatz, ich kann nicht bleiben, doch will ich auf die Scheiben, und die Trompete ruft. Soldaten voran. Furcht kennt keiner von ihnen, alle gehen gleichen mit uns viel. Heimatland will nicht mehr zu verändern, werden Siegesfahnen wehen. Soldaten, Marsch, Marsch, Marsch. Mein Schatz, ich kann nicht bleiben, doch will ich auf die Scheiben, und die Trompete ruft. Soldaten voran. Heimat, dies soll kein Feind bedrohen, zu dir stehen wir jederzeit. So gekämpft durch die halbe Welt, bist du hinaus, tun wir's erneut. Soldaten, Marsch, Marsch, Marsch. Mein Schatz, ich kann nicht bleiben, doch will ich auf die Scheiben, und die Trompete ruft. Soldaten voran.
Es geht durch die Welt ein Geflüster. Arbeiter, hörst du es nicht? Das sind die Stimmen der Kriegsminister. Arbeiter, hörst du sie nicht? Es flüstern die Kohle- und Stahlproduzenten. Es flüstert die chemische Kriegsproduktion. Es flüstert von allen Kontinenten. Mobilmachung gegen die Sowjetunion.
Arbeiter, Bauern, nehmt die Gewehre zur Hand. Zerschlagt die faschistische Räuberheere, setzt alle Herzen in Brand. Pflanzt eure roten Banner der Arbeit auf jede Lampe, auf jede Fabrik.
Dann steigt aus den Trümmern der alten Gesellschaft.
Es schreien die NATO-Minister, hört ihr es nicht? Ihr Schreien ist nicht mehr Geflüster.
Es geht durch die Welt ein Geflüster. Arbeiter, hörst du es nicht? Das sind die Stimmen der Kriegsminister. Arbeiter, hörst du sie nicht? Es flüstern die Kohle- und Stahlproduzenten. Es flüstert die chemische Kriegsproduktion. Es flüstert von allen Kontinenten. Mobilmachung gegen die Sowjetunion.
Arbeiter, Bauern, nehmt die Gewehre zur Hand. Zerschlagt die faschistische Räuberheere, setzt alle Herzen in Brand. Pflanzt eure roten Banner der Arbeit auf jede Lampe, auf jede Fabrik.
Dann steigt aus den Trümmern der alten Gesellschaft die sozialistische Weltrepublik.
Dann steigt aus den Trümmern der alten Gesellschaft die sozialistische Weltrepublik.
Arbeiter, horch, sie ziehen ins Feld und schreien für Nation und Rasse. Das ist der Krieg der Herrscher der Welt gegen die Arbeiterklasse. Der Angriff gegen die Sowjet.
Ah, you're back. I was watching some East German marches while you were gone.
I was listening to my mom bashing my brother.
I assumed there was something on because you said you would be real quick. That was not very quick of you. How could you? Fuck, I don't even
sorry.
remember
I
what we were
lied.
talking about.
Let me. Oh yeah, I was. You can say anything because I'm actually eating right now. myself some in true American style. I actually made myself some sandwiches instead of making actual food. You know.
I mean, I am
So anyway,
18 now as well. Truly, adulthood comes with such immense brain power, honestly.
yeah. But anyway, you can say whatever you want. I was talking about the fragility, right? What that comes with love and shit.
Yeah, you were. Fuck, I don't know what to really bring onto the table in regards to that. I think I think it's a facet of the descent of social relationships as a whole. You know, we go to I and other. I try to keep a lot of my friendships not like this, but at the same time, you know, we go back to one of your critiques of dialectical materialism is that you can view things in a lot of different ways, and I could still probably view the way I treat a lot of my friendships in a very I other sense, where I get benefits from my other friends, but I try my best to give. Not that I'm inherently special or this righteous person, but you know, I try to go against that notion of taking in others. But in the same sense, I end up just serving others because the most common thing to do is just bring friends over to play on my VR headset, and really, all I'm doing is just inverting the dialectic. I'm not really
Yeah,
fighting
certainly. Give
against the
me all your
grain.
money, right?
Yeah. Well, you see, I had one of my friends over repaste my GPU because it was awful. When we took the cooler off, it basically had no thermal paste on it because the idiot before me did not know how to repaste it properly. Um, and he redid all the wiring on my computer because he didn't like how I didn't have any cable management. Um, but I would say, you know, he just got a job in doing that stuff, and he loves doing that stuff. Is that really like I other stuff or how? Because me and him were having a lot of fun. We both enjoy doing that. I'm not like I don't inherently view it as like an I other service relationship, but it can be because after all, he did provide me with a service. You know.
No, but uh, calm down. You're like exaggerating a bit. You know, in ancient times, for instance, like people helped each other. You know, this is not capitalism. It's not. That's not a service. A selling of service. It's not in like doing something for a friend is not inherently a service, right? You're not being served.
No, no.
And you know, so you know, I think you're a bit exaggerating.
Hmm. Well, yes, but I was referring to it in the notion where that becomes like the sole meaning of the relationship.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is it the sole meaning of your relationship with the guy you just
Absolutely
mentioned?
not. So it's more just like social anxiety on my part.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can understand that. Previously, you asked oh my fucking gosh, you asked me what do I think of America? How do I view American shit?
Oh, I actually,
Uh,
when I asked that question, I was asking what does the word American means to you, but feel free to answer what you feel about the United States. Did you die? Did you drop?
no, sorry, I was eating. Sorry. Uh, no, I actually want to hear you first. How do you view America?
America the
Both in
word
a
or America the country?
oh both. Why not
Fuck.
both?
Well, okay. In regards, I'm gonna have to. So I'm just gonna have to skip over America the word for now. America the country. There's a lot to it. I think every nation is complex in its own right. But America, as a non-national country, you know, we aren't really a nation. There's no singular nationality, no matter how much the white supremacists would love for there to be one. And no matter how, we could definitely say that there's a national commonality of which group of people is commonly in office,
Yeah.
especially with which base votes. There's still no real nation of the United States. It is a country, an organization, an economic empire, a criminal state, if you will, but not a nation in the way other countries are. In that sense, though, I still
You say like it doesn't have a cultural hegemony, something like this.
cultural. Mm, okay, cultural hegemony, yes, but at the same time, what culture are we going on here? Like the culture of capital commodity? I mean, yes, but I think culture, and
That's global,
especially the
right?
many facets of American culture, just go well beyond that.
No, but like, do you think America has a culture to itself, its own culture? Because capitalism is global. It's already globalized. It's not
Mm,
inherently American. Although, yeah, we tend to associate capital with American shit.
I so America The only America has a lot of its culture. Most of it is stolen from other countries and assimilated into this sort of melting pot culture. The only genuine American culture one could assimilate is art and media that arises based on American history and conflicts Americans are involved in, which is literally like once or twice every year. 300 wars overall. Um, fuck. So culture hegemony, obviously, but I would say that the culture here is not really a rising form, but genuinely like a combination of the many different European cultures and a lot of like the arisen reactionary culture here. I mean, especially reactionary. I mean, so much of modern culture is based on like Cold War era. There's definitely a sort of Dawkins memes concept with like communism. People often bring up how words have like meanings and words have definitions. I guarantee you 70% of people, maybe that's a little too nice, 90% of people don't know the definition of communism here, but know its meaning as evil dictatorships that starve people, despite that never being the case. Uh,
I heard a critique somewhere. The basically said that the U.S. doesn't have an actual identity. It only has an
yes.
identity based on a differentiation that it makes in relation to its enemies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
First it was the Nazis, then the Soviet
Absolutely.
Union.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with this?
Absolutely. It is exactly what we continuously base our culture around. It's always on conflict, and us being free and they being not free. We'll never be free from conflict, that's for sure, because we can't.
So basically, this freedom, you know, uh, describes quote unquote describes America is not uh is not clarified. It's just it's an empty word. It only has meaning when in
No,
conflict with
freedom is a very loaded word in America, culturally and meaning wise. And everyone will have their own definition towards it. See, anyone who's in America has known no other country besides America, and their concept of an unfree country is any country that isn't America. It's basically like it's American exceptionalism encapsulated into the word. The word goes beyond just like free market or free will or the right to vote, you know. But I feel as if freedom for most people means free from like being knowing they're oppressed. I would say in most cases the majority of Americans are oppressed, but they're free of knowing it. Being free from like a lot of the worries that people in other countries have, even if a lot of them still have them. It's this kind of binding word at most. The word certainly doesn't mean free in
I,
any sense.
I kind of get it.
If free
Oh,
even means
just wait,
anything.
just wait a bit, real quick.
I would say the closest thing to freedom we have is our own sort of economic anarchism, or proposed economic anarchism. In the end, the market is heavily controlled by oligopolies, but most people don't care. They're free from having to worry about it. It's the very function on which our government is based, and I think a lot of other governments are dangerously following this path, where freedom is the people not having to deal with all the problems and leaving those problems up to the government, which is why a lot of times the most important issues are never really voted on in mass. It's, we elect our politicians to ensure that we are free of having to deal with the decisions that they have to make. And often that finds yourselves free of having to deal with the corrupt
Free
politicians.
of taking responsibility, you mean?
Yes, the sort of freedom from responsibility.
Hmm. Okay, so the word freedom, when it comes to in America, right? That America is very, of course, like every word ever existed, it has multiple meanings, right? Multiple signifiers and shit.
Yes.
But but do you think like it only comes with a meaning? It only comes with uh, it only becomes a clear, or not so clear, but rather, how can I express this? It only comes to fruition when it's in conflict with the, let's say, word tyranny or word dictatorship, like when it's facing a quote unquote dictatorship, like the
Yeah,
Soviet Union, you know?
absolutely. Like I said before, freedom is a reactionary word. There needs to be unfreedom for freedom to exist because freedom is not inherently something that has form. We have the Patriots Act, which has denied us of a lot of previously accepted freedoms, freedoms from our own government oppression, in terms to free us from terrorist oppression.
So
One of those
ironically,
is far more prolific than the other one.
oh, I see.
So, yes, ironically,
So
freedom has been
ironically,
used
yeah,
in the name of
yeah. I was gonna
oppression.
say ironically, freedom is a negative term, right? It doesn't have any positive values. It
It,
doesn't have
it,
any.
it doesn't, no. And one of the biggest freedom movements of the sort is the Second Amendment movement. Ignore the well-regulated part, ignore the militia part, ignore literally everything around the Second Amendment, ignore its historical significance and how it was treated throughout American history. No, no, everyone's allowed to own fully automatic AR-15s, um, because. And the weirdest part is, they take it as the very literal definition of the Second Amendment, but then when you define the Second Amendment literally, they're like, no, 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 that's not what the founding fathers meant. But then you're like, no,
Huh.
that's not what the
It's
founding
like the
fathers meant.
Bible.
And it's literally the left and right are going through this back and forth where it's like, that's not what the founding fathers meant. That's not what the founding fathers meant. And, but at the same time, they'll both go back with like, maybe the founding fathers are out of touch with 250 years later and we need to pursue new rules. And the conservatives types, which are called liberals in other countries, I know, will use it as, well, that's why we need to own AR-15s now. And the liberal types will be like, oh, well, that's why we need to have gun regulation now. It's the same, freedom ideology. One wants the freedom of having to worry about someone breaking in, although I think they more want the freedom of just being able to kill people that they don't like. And the other one wants the freedom from gun violence. I'm not very
Mm.
pro-Democrat in any way, but at the
Yeah.
moment, there is certainly one political party that is filled with more morally upright people than the other one.
Oh, and certainly the of course, I'm not talking on a inside perspective. I don't know America as much as you do because you live there anyway. But it's also, I think it's also important to note how these so-called these conservative politics change when it comes to different groups of people, right? For instance, I think it's in the 70s. I'm not gonna remember exactly the year, but in the 70s, the Republic, what is it? What is the name of the What is it? There's the Democratic Party and the what is the
Republican
name?
Party.
Yeah, Republican Party. It tried to pass on laws of gun control, right? Because of the Black Panthers.
Yes.
So when it needs, they are against guns. When it but they try to defend the idea of, oh, you must have your own gun so you can defend against government
Well,
tyranny and all that
well, in
crap. But
this case, it's
well,
legitimately, unironically, rooted in white supremacy. Because when a black person or an Arab does a mass shooting, it's, oh my God, they're a black supremacist, or oh my God, they're a Muslim. They're doing this because of religious reasons. They're doing this because of race reasons. But when a white person
because
does a
they
mass
don't have
shooting,
progress.
it's because, oh, they were bullied. Oh, it's not their fault. They were having a bad. I'm not joking. These are literally the things they bring up. It's so unironically rooted in like white supremacist apologism, which I mean is this new phrase, but it's like it's unironically the condition that we're in.
I
That
think well, from an outsider's perspective, I think racism in America is a lot more clear and open in the field than here in Brazil, because here we have like a, a hidden racism, right? We are racist without knowing or without feeling we are, right?
hmm
I don't know how it is in America, but from an outsider's perspective, I think it's more open. It's more.
I would say there are a lot of people in this country, the majority of which would like to live in a country where the conditions that lead to racism don't exist. And so they manufacture a worldview that conveniently allows that to exist. And this is both on parts of the left and the majority of the right. The right is
What do you mean?
very okay. I'll have to explain this because it's deep in American politics. The right has always been focused on what's the limit, and a lot of their propaganda, they're talking about first it's like, oh, first gay rights and gay marriage, then it's gay adoption, then it's trans rights and trans marriage and then trans adoption. Like, what's the end? Like, how much leeway much we give, and it's so charged. It's so homophobic and transphobic. They're like, oh, I'm not homophobic or transphobic. I just hate when they make it part of their life. Shut the fuck up. It's their life. Are we not like a free country? But again, free. It's literally just an ideological phrase. Like it means nothing. It
Yeah.
means like free. Like you really can't define freedom in the first place without tyranny. And in that aspect, there is certainly a level of oppression and tyranny. But especially with like black rights and stuff, they'll always go on of like, well, Derek Chauvin was arrested. You have a black president. We has the Civil Rights Act. There's no systemic or societal racism. What are you going on about?
Uh,
Is it not enough? Is it not enough that you had civil rights and a black president? I mean, what's going to be enough? And, on the left aspect of it, and this is probably the I don't want to criticize the notion of further like rights and an aspect of liberalization, at least in the American phraseology of it, of like allowing people more rights and stuff like that and dismantling systemic oppression. But that is the driving voting base of the Democratic Party, and without it, they're kind of just the Republican Party.
so you're
Because
saying like
oh yeah,
they try to
there's
appeal to
yeah,
these
they're appealing
leftists.
to these people, and they're giving them more rights and stuff. But that's all they care about. Because when push comes to shove, when it comes to like different economic decisions, they're not too far apart from each other. Sure, some will,
Yeah, I see.
one the left will, they have the stimulus checks, which are so just they're not. That's not going to solve the issues here. We need homes for people. We need actual wealth transfer, not money transfer,
Bro, but
wealth
don't you know
transfer.
Joe Biden is actually more leftist than Lenin, dude? You don't know
Yes.
politics? Joe Biden is fucking leftist as hell, dude.
I
He's like Stalin. He's gonna
Jim
install a
Crow Joe,
dictatorship.
Jim Crow Joe ain't doing anything. And believe me, people on the left
So,
know. Everyone on the left is well aware that Joe Biden is this piece of shit. But everyone on the left was also aware that the other piece of shit was a lot more active in being a piece of shit.
Yeah. Storming the Capitol on those shit.
Uh,
Okay, so that was the country. What about the word America too?
okay, the word American. So, despite my endless complaints on this country, I feel as if most people in this country, on the left and right, are honestly good people. Not in the sense that I'm just saying that, but I think you'll find that a lot of people, especially people who find themselves as like racist and stuff, arise themselves from that, from very like impoverished and terrible conditions. I feel as
But
if
let me understand real quick. Do you mean like by the word America? Do you mean like the ideal America, or like the idea of America, the essence of America per se?
well, I mean just the words and how you would interpret the word, how you
Oh
interpret the
yeah.
word is your own, and I'm kind of going into it. It's going to be this long thing for me. So I again, as I'm
Okay.
saying, I feel as if 90% of Americans who aren't wealthy have essentially are very similar. Yes, they have different political views, but unless except for like the few insane radicals or the grifters, those who just see through the system and just want to make money off of it because that's all they know. There are a lot of similar people, and there's. I had this discussion with my friend. He was like, and him and I both agreed that a lot of black people who live in ghettos and a lot of white people who live in trailer parks are culturally the same. They're on a, they have to deal with drug issues. They have very specific cultural music that exemplifies where they live, how they live, and what they are. They're big into gun rights and gun ownership, and they're very
Hmm.
against one another. Like, oh, I'm not like them cities folk. Or, yeah, I ain't no country bumpkin. Stuff like that. Other than their stupid opposition to each other, they're very similar cultural groups of people. Is there's the
Do you think
same reactions to the phenomenon of poverty in America?
do you think solidarity is a possibility in America?
No. Well,
No?
yes. It would take at the moment, no. At the moment, it's an absolute no, because you have like 100 years, more than even, like this goes back to even before the Civil War, where people have just been ass blasted with propaganda and racist media and just shit like that. It's insane how how much we are driven to hate each other for arbitrary things while the rich control everything. How much we are made to fight each other on the streets over superficial political issues, whilst the rich on both the left and right make like we'll get together. The Senate will vote like 99-1 on some issue because like the one is like a Green Party member who's not like part of the ingrained system, and they'll all vote the same on like whatever issue, even if it was up until recently increasing their own wages, their own salaries. And it's
Hmm.
just, I feel for solidarity to happen, the curtain would have to be unveiled. The masks would have to be taken off. There would have to be a series of events so undeniable as to destroy the very foundation of America itself in everyone's minds without beyond repair. Something that would awaken everyone. And I
To
think
break the idea of America.
yeah, I think there are radicals on both the left and right who just fetishize this moment because they want them, because and I'm definitely we are very guilty of this ourselves right now. We definitely want to view the awakening as being a communist one, but there are definitely radicals on the right who want the awakening to be a white supremacist one.
Yeah.
And either way, the curtain will be taken back because America is a very white supremacist system. You know, just replace the stars and stripes with a swastika, and that would be enough of a curtain taken back for them. But for a lot of people, the wealth and power and the oligarchical totalitarianism that is truly invested here, it would be a different thing. It would garner out opposition. I don't know exactly what would lead to this. I mean, I think, like another economic collapse, but at the same time, whenever there's an economic collapse, there's always a literal Great Depression where everyone's just upset about it. Because whenever that happens, there's always massive
Hello,
government
hello. Can you
policing
hear me?
of communists. Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, hello,
Ah, shit. Hello?
hello. Oh,
Hello?
yeah, I can hear you. I can hear
How much did you miss?
you. Just a little bit. Like you were talking about the how to unveil the curtain, and if you put a swastika, you know.
Yeah, I would say
Y
people on the right would love to unveil the curtain and reveal
oh,
the
okay.
white supremacist system is the natural and like hallway one. They're all on this natural order shit. But people on the left would like to unveil that and prove it as to why the system is bad. I don't know exactly what would, unveil the curtain. Undeniably, mask off type of, Phantom of the Opera type shit.
Uh-huh.
You know, I would think economic crash, but whenever there's an economic crash, it leads to a literal Great Depression where everyone is upset about it. And anyone who's anxious or wants changed is policed by, like, the federal agencies because that's what they're really worried about. They don't care about people being depressed and suicidal. You, you, you kill yourself or you overdose or you die in some way. The government doesn't care. That's just one less problem.
Yeah, that's why I get so, I get so like in a doomer state when it comes to revolution and shit because
That's what they want.
it's
That's what they
yeah,
want.
I know, but it's so fucking hard to imagine a organized proletariat fighting against the system. It's so hard to imagine this with so much ideology shoved upon our class. I really think it's hard to imagine. I know it's I'm being played by ideology here. I know. I'm fully aware of that, but I can't help but feel like this, you know?
Yeah.
I can't help but feel helplessness.
You'll have to give me a moment. I have to take another break again.
Okay. Dude, I lose so much to this video of gamer theory, the about Arab gamer theory. So fucking good. Oh my fucking god.
I am back.
Hello.
Yes. Were you gonna say something? Yeah, you
No,
were talking about
you were,
but yeah, you were talking about
yeah, the helplessness and stuff. But I finished you.
um
You can make your point. Hmm. Yeah, go ahead, make. You can talk.
really, I mean, helplessness. I always say the same thing, I put faith in the fact that the system is self-destructive and cannot uphold itself forever. Before I can put faith that a revolution will appear to oppose the system, I think it's more reasonable to think that the system will be destroyed by the time a revolution has come up to attempt to rectify its mistakes, which comes at its own consequences. I often like to imagine the scenarios leading up and what would cause like a second American Civil War. How would it play out? How would it function? The government does too, and in the end, it's more people are invested within the abstract concept of what is America that leading up to a civil war, the fundamentals around America would have to be destroyed. Freedom would have to be proven untrue. And only then would the curtain be unveiled. Most people would probably be left wondering and helpless, And this is where, a lot of people talk about, oh, or anyone, being radicalized to an extremist, stuff like that, because it's inevitable when
Hmm.
the system fails, people pursue systems that they think won't fail.
Yeah, but don't you fear this can also bring about a more fascist state? From
Oh,
the ashes of the.
it absolutely will attempt to. The inherent issue with this is I don't I don't think if there was a second American Civil War, the fascists would win. Mostly for the same reasons they would lost the Second World War. Yeah,
Well,
there's
there's also the problem of ecological degradation, right? You're
ecological
also
degradation. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a huge
because
issue. Um,
yeah, I don't know. I fear the world is gonna blow up before we can actually do a revolution.
that's probably the scarier part of global warming. It won't be fully accepted until it is too late to stop most of its permanent effects. I don't think
Yeah.
I am still faithful in my thought that most people will wake up to that with just the first signs of effects. No one's truly that dumb. Once their lives are literally being physically changed drastically, they can no longer deny it.
Yeah, the pandemic kind of brought this up, right? I think
I mean, yeah, no
more
one's
people
no
got.
one's denying the pandemic. They're just creating conspiracy theories about it because you can't
No, yeah,
deny that there is
I'm saying
something
about
going
the
on.
I'm saying about the radicalization. The pandemic definitely brought some people to the left. At least
Yes.
made them look at the left and think, oh well, maybe these guys have something to tell us.
Yeah, you have like Slava Zizek, where it's like the only true solution to like the issues around the pandemic is a new form of worldwide, communism.
Yeah, I agree. Awkward silence.
Yes.
Okay, but well, now answering you what I think of America, both the world and the country. Oh, well, I interpret I don't know if that's what you're expecting from me, but I think you're like expecting me to give you a my philosophical views on America, what it means to me, what it means on a linguistical level.
Probably.
Uh, but I'm afraid I don't have much to tell you. I don't have a made image, like I don't have a made a conceptualization of America in my mind where I look and I think, oh my gosh, this America represents this. Of
Hmm.
course, I know its history of oppression of invading other countries and stuff. So, but the knowledge I have and my conflict with America, right, um my disagreements. No, disagreements is too light. Uh, my contempt. I think contempt. Is this correct?
Mm, your contempt?
Contempt.
Ugh.
I don't know if this means what I think it means. I mean, uh, my problem. Let's put it that way. Well, my problem with America is more on a material level, like right, more on a historical level. It's very quote unquote objective, right? I don't have a formed image of America beyond its doings in history and its fucked ups, fucked up stuff. So I don't think I can give you much of a definition when it comes to the word America. It's a very uh empty word to me, right? Hmm. On a ideal level. But the country, in its material constructions, material consolidations, well, Well, I think I pretty much share the same thoughts. You know, uh, perhaps I have one or two things to add that I cannot remember right now, but in general, I think I agree with you, right? Of course, you have much more knowledge about it than I do, but you know, uh, on this material level, I think we're on the same page. I just really can't give you much of a definition or much of an image, of America.
Mm. Uh, well, you know, despite the many lies founding fathers were told, I think everyone will agree that America is founded upon some sort of pursuit of happiness.
Yeah,
But
American dream. Yeah,
when the very concept of happiness and the methodology of pursuing it are under absolute and total state control and the culture as well, the nation is no longer on the pursuit of happiness. It's merely on the exercise of your position within the country.
yeah.
It's
Also, I think uh, as we were speaking about its identity, I think it's America's identity is constantly diluting because as capitalism is globalized, right? It's everywhere. The main thing that defines America, which is alignment, individuality, individual rights and stuff. All of this is actually pretty much universal now, right? So it's kind of the its identity is kind of diluting, right? Hmm.
mm,
Hello?
yes, yes,
Yeah,
I'm here.
all right.
Yeah, diluting. Mm, that's certainly the price to pay with additional cultural assimilation. But I'd like to go back to the Slavoj Žižek, where he said that it was the pandemic was the Kill Bill, like five finger. Hold on, what was it? Um, he said it was like this five finger punch or whatever from the movie. I haven't seen it. Where you get five footsteps and your heart explodes, but it's so long as you don't walk, you're fine. He says that was the pandemic to the world capitalist system, which is by and large just America.
Yeah,
Hmm.
well, I haven't read anything from Zizek yet. Only watched some of his videos.
It's
So yeah,
pretty good. If you enjoy psychoanalysis and Hegel, then yes, it's
yeah.
very
It's
good.
the the problem is that I like to first uh get knowledge on what influenced certain contemporary philosophers. So I'd like to read like Lacan and Hegel before I delve into Zizek.
Hmm, I understand.
Hmm. Well, Hegel I kind of delved in, not much, just peripherically speaking. I haven't read his main book yet.
Hmm. Uh, you think
By
it's
the way,
time
you had
to?
a
But you were
okay.
saying?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say if you think it's time to end it here.
I mean, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm kind of tired, but not sleepy tired
Okay.
entirely.
No, it's cool. It's cool. We can continue later. I think it's what time is it in your country?
Hey, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Oh, wow, it's actually earlier than I thought. Huh. Okay, if you wanna end, we can end. We'll continue this later then.